I can call the April 17th, 2024 meeting to order. I go through and first read this thing. Our mission is to provide a supportive and safe learning environment where all students are encouraged and empowered to reach their educational and personal potential. And we can stand for the pledge, right?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, there's no, we had other changes, but they're all like on here now, right?
I think so. We got it updated.
Yeah. And any public comment in the forefront? No? Okay. And then, are we already to Kurt?
We are.
Okay. So we probably need to be this way, right? Is it gonna do this? Hi, Kurt.
Did you say you're ready for?
We did.
Yes.
Do you want to take it away?
Well, so we recently have talked about middle school asbestos abatement, and I can give you a relatively quick update as to what's going on there now. Is there anything else you want to touch base on?
Those are the main. I do have one question to add related to the industrial arts building. It came up today, and it's way easier to just mention it here. So.
Okay. Let me, I will share screen real quick. So, make sure I can. So this is a diagram of the middle school. Are you seeing my screen?
We are, yeah.
Okay, so you may recall a meeting or two ago, I was not participating in the meeting, but had provided some very preliminary construction cost estimating or project cost information on asbestos abatement in various areas. And the next step in that process is basically, let me tell you what's been done with the asbestos abatement. Under the cost of the grant, an evaluation report for all of the buildings that were affected by the study has been performed. And then there were some the conditions were in various buildings. This building has a lot of it, and the areas that are in color have as asbestos containing materials, primarily in the floor. You may be aware that there are some pipe wrap and some materials in the attic space that has it as well. But the focus here has been on the floor level spaces. And then based on the quantity, some preliminary, just always stress preliminary, budgeting numbers were estimated for this building. And so the next step would be to engage with the same asbestos evaluation consultant, PBS Environmental, to do abatement documents, so that these would be basically drawings and a description of the process for abating the material from the building that then could be bid by asbestos abatement contractors. And so we are waiting on those proposals. I'm hoping, given it's Wednesday, they may not. We're probably going to see them next week. They think that they can get a pretty quick turnaround time in terms of once they get authorization to proceed to move forward and get documents done that then can be used for bidding for asbestos abatement work. And so until we know what their costs are, we don't know we can't respond to that. But the purpose of this diagram was to help them understand that in a perfect world, there would be enough budget to be able to abate everything in the building. But recognizing that we live in a perfect world when it comes to budgets, and B, their building is partially occupied, and there's some some challenges. I put together this key. So orange is priority one, purple is priority two, the blue is priority three, and the greenish teal color is priority four. So priority four would be hallways. Priority one would be the ends of the building that are either not occupied or not occupied actively currently, and that could be occupied. That was really priority one. Um, I, I isolated the space that the River Council is taking now into this area, which is where their primary office space is. And then I, I'm a little bit unclear, and maybe you could clarify with me if this is space that you guys are occupying actively now
It is.
in this area.
I mean, it is, yeah. It's a lot of, the one half of it is storage right now, basically, you know, and then the other half is a office space for our financial manager. And then
Right.
the other side of the hallway there is also, we're using it, we're occupying it.
It's like a break room or kind of a support or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, it's our crew, like sorry, we have a field crew and it's like sort of their home base room when they're in the office.
Okay. Okay. So the challenge with asbestos abatement is that they to do the work, they would, then again, we're talking about removing abatement is removing the materials that are asbestos containing. And depending on what the materials are and where they are, sometimes that requires removing other material that they're either glued to or it's on top of them. The thought, what we're going to get from PBS is documents that would describe what to remove, how to contain the space so that the asbestos while they're doing work is it floats in the air, is limited to the space that they're working in. It then needs to get double bagged so that it can get properly taken offside and disposed. And of course, their people are wearing the appropriate breathing apparatus and gear to keep themselves safe as well. And that's what the documents from PBS will be providing. What I'm talking to them about right now is that we're going to assume that this is going to be a contract that's going to be bid to abatement contractors to do this work, as opposed to being bid to a general contractor who would have the abatement contractors as a subcontractor and then do other improvement work, which is not an uncommon solution. Both are done, but we need to recognize that when the abatement work is completed, we're left with primarily we're talking about flooring again. We are left with a wood substrate for the floor that then needs to get modified and the finish put on them for the space to be usable. There could be some, if you think about how a floor, this is not unlike a residential floor system where you've got a wood structure, like wood 2x10 beams or joist with plywood or some kind of a board decking that runs across them and the flooring sits on that. It's not out of the question that some of the asbestos will be adhered to the wood, and it'll be more direct to take the wood out with the abatement or with the flooring attached to it. And therefore, there will be some potential structural repairs that need to get done. We won't know all of that until they get until they actually start doing the work. That's a problem with asbestos containing material. Randy or I or a contractor can't start playing around with what it's going to be like to remove stuff because of the asbestos. So I think we need to, I don't know that we need to decide this today. I'm not asking you to decide this today, but in terms of what gets done immediately after the abatement work is done is a question. And ultimately, who's going to do it? If it's some relatively minor work, It may be possible that district personnel can do it. If it's another way of doing minor work is to hire someone, a contractor who can do work without going through a bid process and just have them do work on an hourly basis. It could also be that we want to have let's have some flooring go in some of these spaces, and so we're going to package this as a bigger project. All those are options, and those all have some different cost implications and also schedule implications and procurement processes to consider. So I guess the discussion that I would encourage you to have sooner than later is, do these priorities seem like that's properly delineating what you would say is the priorities? And if we do want to start abating the areas in the current tenant spaces, we're going to have to think about how the work is going to get segregated so the building can get used, or they have to go someplace else during that time. So those are some things to think about a little bit. And then how much of the other improvements would you like to do at this, simultaneously or immediately after? So those are the things I would suggest that I'd throw those out as some questions. Anybody wants to respond to that?
Can I ask another question first, just about the diagram? So you said that the colored areas are where asbestos is found. So the two old bathroom spaces, well, the three old bathroom spaces there aren't colored. So does that mean they don't have asbestos in them?
That's my understanding from the report. So basically, what the asbestos containing materials is the 9-inch by 9-inch floor tile.
Okay. That was interesting. So we wouldn't have to touch those if we don't want to in this process.
And so is the thought process like, do the oranges and then like you guys would have to move into those spaces, right?
Something like that, or we'd have to move somewhere.
While they then do purple, which is next, and then blue, and then at the very end, if available, then do the green. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to go somewhere or do something. Just for like, I appreciate the sequenced part of it. I think it would be more thinking from the Watershed Council tenant perspective, and it would make sense to have purple and blue be combined and do them at the same time. Because otherwise we're moving out twice essentially. Yeah.
What's estimate on time that the purple and blue would need to be moved out?
I don't have a good feel for that. No, I don't know that any of this. I think any of the colored areas are measured in weeks. Somewhere around 3 to 4 weeks is probably my expectation. Part of this is the containment. Not only like let's for instance, if they did the orange areas, I would assume that there would be some amount of containment that was put in place across here, and put in place, somewhere like this.
Yeah.
Or maybe down here. And then they're using the basement contractors using this door to get material out, and they're using this end door to get the material out as well. And that's relatively straightforward in terms of their work process. The containment is relatively simple in terms of what they're doing. It just gets a little bit more once we start getting into these spaces where that containment is relative to circulation and if people are actively using the building. So in this diagram, the business group has access to 2 exits, which is what we want at any time, right? So they're never in a situation where we got any code exiting issues. When we start to get into flipping this, where this is the abatement area and this is the containment area, if we literally had the containment here, we really only have access to 1 exit here. and the same thing here, right? And really should have two. So there's just some questions about sequence, access to restrooms, all those kinds of things to work through. So that makes the duration more challenging to predict right now.
Right, and also the question of what do we do in tandem with the abatement, like how do we return it to be, that once the asbestos is out, how do we return it to be
3 weeks later, we're like,
usable?
move back in with no floor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah,
Right. That's right.
yeah,
So, I mean, the nice thing about both orange areas is they are relatively easy to isolate.
Yeah.
And, and it could be one, you could do one or the other, or do both, or whatever. I think that's just it comes down to some cost and schedule items.
I mean, would it be more cost effective to do the whole building at once and just have because if we're gonna have to like vacate the building no matter what, then it sort of seems like summer's a good time to vacate the building, basically if we're gonna have to vacate anyway, then we wouldn't have to worry about containing certain parts of it at different times.
I would say yes, it would be more cost effective on a per square foot basis to simply vacate the building and give the contractor the complete run of the building, and they can manage the containment differently.
Yeah, and they could do it faster, I'm sure too. They wouldn't have to worry about managing containment and
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Is that
right? This is a good example here. I've been treating these spaces as though they're on the east side as though they're not occupied, but really they are occupied.
Yeah.
There is storage in there, and so if this is being used as our a route of getting out of the building, probably would completely isolate the doors on the hallway side, so only can be accessed from the outside. So there's just some little moving parts that need to get worked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that part, it'd be great to be able to isolate those two rooms and have access from the outside. There's that's our sort of gear and equipment area, storage area, and it would be nice to be able to continue to use that for that purpose, even if we're vacated the building, in all other respects.
Right.
Reading it.
I had a similar comment to just doing the whole thing at once in the summer, because like even the spots that aren't occupied, like gardening has all of their starts in one of those unoccupied rooms, and like Terry's in the other one. I'm like, they're occupied. That'd be really weird for the gardening to like try to have to move all their stuff out. So I just wanted to clarify for my own understanding. What you're saying, Kurt, is that you're gonna put together documents that we can then put out for bids to do this, and then Sue, would this be like this summer thing, or is this gonna have to be like
Depending on the cost budget.
That's really the cost part of it is, are we going all in on the whole building, and do we have the funds for that? I don't know the answer yet. And then, or if you piece it out, is that just for funds, or is it to be able to do another area at the same time? Like it really is prioritization. I would love to just get it done this summer, if we can afford it. I'd be.
And is this something that like there's like two go-to companies that do this, or is this like
Kurt, do you know the answer to that? I have no clue.
There are more than a few abatement contractors that do work in in Western Oregon. It's always a challenge of getting away from the further you get from the I-5 corridor, the more challenging these things get. They also have to, this material gets disposed of in landfill. Actually, the Benton County's landfill is actually used as much as Lane County's for asbestos, but there's some travel distance issues. Mm-hmm. So there are a variety of questions here. I think that one comment about that is I'm seeing more bidders attending pre-bid meetings than we've had in the last few years. So I think there's a little bit of evidence that things are slowing down, and will make it more interested bidders, which will help those costs. The other thing was The schedule, so typically there is a little bit of a demand, a fairly intensive demand for abatement contractors at the beginning of the summer as school projects are implemented. Because that's you, quite frankly, you just find a lot of this related to schools. And so, but once that get through mid-July, things open up for them a little bit. So I think this summer in fall is a better expectation for schedule. And I think that Sue, you mentioned the budget and occupancy as two factors as to how this addressing how we might segregate this work if it doesn't get done all at once. I would also say any need of improving the space relative to other groups. So, for instance, if the culinary space is something that might be shooting, might want to get operational by the fall, that might be space that needs to get done sooner than the other spaces for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, I was also thinking in that respect, though, some of it will need more, in order to be usable, it will need more work than just asbestos abatement or just asbestos abatement and flooring. Because, especially for like a culinary, you'll need some wiring and some plumbing and stuff probably.
Yeah, it's an interesting,
So.
we know we need the asbestos first. We know we don't have enough money to do all of the improvements at the same time. So do you just come through and say, let's get asbestos off the list,
Right.
so that any money that comes available, we can keep finishing the next project, which is kind of my leaning of right now, I don't feel
Get a clean slate first.
Yeah, I don't feel like we're in a position to be super responsive given an opportunity, because we know asbestos is part of it. And even some of the conversations I've had with partners is like, okay, take care of the asbestos and then we'll talk. And it kind of ends that conversation where they were willing to consider some investment in the space. They know they can't pay for that. And so, and then they're like, oh, what's the timeline on that? And it starts, then they go look somewhere else, right?
So our best thing is to get bids as fast as we can.
But, and do the work as fast as
So that we know, what's the dollars, and then how fast can we get on your books to whatever we're committing to.
Yeah, and Kurt, I'm not recalling the numbers since last meeting, but
I'm not either. I didn't know.
Just for the asbestos?
You said 180.
I'm making that up. Let me see what
I think it was around 100.
100?
Because it's
Okay.
about 10,000 square feet. Seems like when I added them all up, is looking like around 100,000.
Something like that. That sounds about right.
And that's not including the flooring. This is just the asbestos.
After.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think the other thing to think about here in terms of the context of getting this work done so that the space is more ready for a potential organization or agency to do improvements in the space. From that context, it may be best to do the abatement of the flooring and then replace any subflooring that needs to get put back down. But wait until there's a commitment from a tenant to put flooring down. Because it may be, depending on it may be some more resilient sheet material would be appropriate for culinary, but some other material, a carpet might be more appropriate for somebody else. So, you do have those the nice thing is taking the flooring out, you're going to replace it. You got some decisions to make.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you guys would know what you would want.
Yeah. So the money that we're using to, get this work done, I mean, it's a grant to get this kind of sort of pre-design work done, right?
The current grant is, the TAP grant is the technical work.
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking? Yeah.
Yeah, that's so I would just like to add that.
In terms of
the setup, do they have a grant then
to do the work?
Yeah, you would think that they're gonna set all these people up to do the work, but no money to do it.
Kurt, did you hear that?
I'm not aware of, these grants, the technical assistance program grants are to provide information in support of other improvements. And they really are intended to work together and to support the Awesome program, the Awesome Grant program, which is the bond matching fund program.
Yeah,
So,
which we're not in a position to.
you utilize that as part of the 2017-19 improvements.
Yeah,
But they're also intended to capture data and provide information so that the legislature and others can better understand deferred maintenance implications, on an aggregate basis and those kind of.
Okay, that
Yeah.
explains it. It seemed, I mean, usually what I see with technical assistance grants is they're usually, the precursor to then applying for an implementation grant. But I see, that makes sense that the implementation piece of this is a bond, which we are not considering, so, okay.
And that's true. Now, the facility assessment, long-range facility plan grants do support the Awesome program. The seismic assessment grant is a precursor to a seismic rehabilitation grant program grant. But the environmental, I forgot the actual title for it, but the grant that's used to evaluate asbestos is relatively new. It was, I think rolled out about 4 years ago, and initially only applied to determine or testing for radon. So it does not have a secondary grant available to it.
Got it.
What I was just whispering to Courtney about is some of there's quite a few resiliency focused grants out right now. And like having a culinary space is for education, but in an emergency could be used for providing resilience response, emergency response, those types of things. And so I was just whispering about whether we think part of that could get covered out of the resiliency. There's a grant due April 30th. And it has some flexibility in it, so peek at that. There's CTE mini grant each year. There's all these rules around what's allowable and what's not. I need to peek in there about Perkins to see if you can do a capital improvement that'd be on this end for that room, or those rooms. And then we've been in conversations with Peace Health about school-based health center type approaches. For the top part, there was pre-pandemic $350,000 from Peace Health that didn't get, like, to that purpose. That part of it was it needed asbestos abatement first, it didn't get used. Nobody's quite sure if that money's been given back, and if we can just add, it wouldn't be us asking for it, it'd be Peace Health, but there's some conversations there. So I feel like there's potentials out there to like get the money to do these next steps. And more, I always say capital money is the hardest to find and get, but I feel like there's like some true potential for it. But kind of cart before horse. Every time it's the conversation, it's like, oh, you still got asbestos, you're not serious about this. That's how I feel like it lands, even though that's not what they say, but.
We need to get rid of the elephant in the room.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so I mean, that makes sense, given that sort of urgency of that, but on the other hand, like, sitting on this, knowing what we need to do, not trying to get it done this summer, but see if we can fundraise for it and plan on doing it next summer. And then hopefully using that time to potentially line up and say, all right, we are doing this. We have committed, or we're committed.
Look, we have the bids, we have these documents, then we can show it's real.
And we're going to commit funds to it one way or another, but then using that time to fundraise, and ideally we'd be fundraising beyond asbestos, to like getting the spaces usable how we'd like to have them usable.
Yeah. Does that timeline impact the doing of documents at all? I mean, we've asked for the documents.
Well, I think I think getting the documents done and just having them completed makes a lot of sense.
Okay, a year out doesn't say we
Yeah,
need
I
to
don't think it
redo them or
changes.
anything.
Yeah,
Okay.
what I asked them to do is to, use this priority list to help, kind of determine the fees for their services. But quite frankly, it would be more efficient for them to provide documents for the building and what needs to be removed. And then I or someone else can supplement that with a phasing diagram that says to the bidders, focus on this area. And that's something that can be a little bit more dynamic and change as time goes on. So I think that's the easiest way to handle that. The one thing I would remind you is that, let's just taking one step back, years ago, the district had asbestos that was more friable. That is, could get easily knocked loose and be subjected to, students breathing it. That's been removed in the building. And that's why the asbestos that remains in the attic is pretty well signed. If you've gone up into the attic, you come into a sign that says, caution, asbestos. So the asbestos in the flooring is considered um, contained, and it's only going to come loose if someone's doing something like cutting through it or tearing it out or something like that. So quite frankly, it generally is most hazardous for construction activities if you're doing renovation. The one place where I'm aware of where the floor tile is actually coming loose is right in this area. There are some tiles that are just laying there, and I think if someone just wanted, or not wanted, but someone could, just walking through here or picking up a box could remove more tile, and it probably would release some amount of dust that could have asbestos. I'm not aware of other buildings. I can't think of other places in this building where that's actually the case. So the strategy of doing some work now to be in position to take it out, do the abatement, but actually target next summer makes sense. However, I think this space, it might be something that's an area that someone comes and addresses sooner. And maybe this orange area gets to address something sooner. So just keep in mind that this is an area that I think is, maybe this ought to have a red. I'd put a red color in here and just, that's an area I'll be a little bit more concerned about.
Could we empty that room and lock it up and just have a no entry, sign on it?
Especially after we empty it.
Yeah.
I think the question is it may be that taking stuff out of that room might be a challenge. So I think it's probably worth another walk through there to see where there's other areas where it could be easily released for people walking around the building and just, kind of that from a cautionary perspective.
Yeah.
But that's the area that I'm aware of right now. But certainly, limiting access to that space, I think would be a good strategy.
And also for like marketability, what you want to do, that'd be the space first, right? Yeah.
And we budgeted, we budgeted
Jared.
$300,000 to capital improvements this year. And we haven't touched much of that in anticipation of this. So there is money budgeted in the capital improvement fund to do something. Of course, fiscal year ends June 30th, so, but I can put that money in next year too.
Right.
So, it's just sitting there in the capital improvement fund.
But if we're thinking, if we're thinking grants and we need match for grants, then like keeping that till we actually apply for grants allows us to say we have this much match on hand, where if we spend it now, you can't really usually do that outside of retroactively, I mean, we'll budget, in our new budget, we'll also have some capital improvement money, but no, I don't know.
Yeah, it's really, it's a hard decision to make in terms of what order, because waiting can help you with that funding and say this is part of a larger project, and
maybe.
waiting makes it harder to get the future project.
Yeah.
At the same
To
time,
do
there's,
something to
Yeah.
get the other money.
yeah,
The real sticking point though seems to be the fact that we have it and we haven't taken care of it, and I just really think that that's the real next step.
Yeah.
Like whatever that looks like, let's get rid of it, and then we can do the stuff. Because the improvements, whatever those look like, just because they're, like you said, there's so many that are like, we'll partner, but we won't right now. Elephant in the room, that whole thing.
Yeah. Like, to me, it's like we at least would need to take care of that section there, so you guys can go out and get those grants to do the thing. Is it cost effective that way, or do you just blank slate the whole thing, which would be awesome? It's a matter of avoiding, costs a lot, especially for you guys, but.
Well, I mean, it sounds like the bids would be the
This is
big
start.
deciding factor.
Yeah, we just need to
I
know.
do, Misa, I'm thinking about what you said for, holding out for matching and stuff. The idea of doing the subfloor but not the floor, and holding out on the floor and saying, we've invested this much, our next step is matching this as part of this grant. I wonder if it gives us enough matching. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, we hold out that piece to say that's based on the next project and next grant opportunity. And does that help us meet both? I'm not sure. I guess it depends on the I don't know cost of anything. So like it's hard to.
In some ways, I do agree. Maybe we wait and have more of a conversation about it when we have bids and say, all right, look, there was some competition. The bids came in lower than we thought.
Yeah.
Let's go for it and do it, you know. Or this is, maybe more than we wanted it to be now, and we actually need to wait, hold on to that
Do
money
the
we budgeted
fundraising.
and combine, look for more. Yeah.
I like that approach.
Yeah.
We can organize the bid document so that bidders give us some prices for different areas, and maybe that the base bid or the primary bid is to do the whole building as a project. But there's some other bids that say, what if you just did let's just just to do the priority 1 areas and the priority 1 and 2 areas or something like that. So we can do this in a way so that there's some information that you can respond to.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because I also think that like a bigger project's gonna be more appealing to more contractors, so we might get fewer bids if we only say, we're gonna just do these 2 rooms this year. So,
I like the move forward with bids, see what the bids are, and then make a decision. Do we have the funds to jump, or should we wait? And that gives us a little time for a couple of these grants. Not some of them move faster than others, so. I think the 2 that I named go fast. I just don't know if this is eligible. So I'll figure that out this week.
What was the timeline on the documents? I forgot, I don't know. if you
Yeah,
said.
Kurt, did you say the timeline on those documents to be able to go to bid?
They told me,
he said
they
next
told me a number of weeks I think was unrealistic. So I think it's going to be, once we get them under contract, probably something in the 8-week range in that ballpark is a reasonable expectation. Maybe that can get done a little sooner, but I wouldn't set a schedule on that.
So we're not even looking at.
That's to get the full documents complete to be able to go.
Get something that could be issued for bidding. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. And what was the piece for that you might have next week?
Their proposal.
Got it.
So I think we could assume that, it's the middle of April, so by 1st of May, be able to have this work, the design work with them under contract, and then sometime in late June, early July, there's documents out for bidding, and assume 3 weeks for bidding and another week to 2 for construction contracts. That gets us into August.
Wow.
Right.
And we're already, then our summer's gone, so it may not even be the right timing to go to bid. So
I don't know that the summer's, that's when, for both weather and because of just the impact of schoolwork on construction schedules and other things and roofing and all this kind of things. Summer's when everybody's the busiest. So, with the exception of just the ongoing tendency of the Rivers Council, if this is work that can be, done in the fall, then there's some value to that. I mean, that might fit into bidder schedules easier than the summer anyway.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn off my camera because I'm losing some bandwidth here. So.
Okay. That's helpful to hear the whole timeline on that too.
Yeah.
To say,
It's not like we're gonna have bids by June.
yeah, we already know it's not June 30th, so, okay.
Well, and I would say too, the other option is for something small-ish, like this red area or a portion of that room, you're probably in a budget range where it falls under your direct appointment limitations. And you could have, with relatively simple documentation, we could have an abatement contractor do some work relatively quickly on that isolated area. You're not getting the benefit of scale, nor are you necessarily, I mean, depending on how you select that contractor, you may or may not be able to get it really well bid. But there is some opportunity this summer to do some work in those most, that area that I think is probably most trouble.
Okay. Okay. Any other?
One thing to remember, this 9x9 tile that is almost, my experience is almost always asbestos containing. There are very few buildings that were constructed in the 40s, 50s, 60s that don't have some of this flooring. And most buildings have not done it. Most school districts or other agencies have not done complete abatement. It's always best to do it because it's just gone, but it's not an inexpensive process. And so most public agencies are making decisions about how much all the time. So it's.
So, yeah, I mean, essentially you're saying do it in, we could just do some of it, not all of it, based on the response.
I have so you have some latitude in terms of what you take out when. And the other way to think about this is I am on a FEMA grant with the city of Oak Ridge, and the question is, there was a question in the grant. Do you have asbestos in your building? And if the answer is yes, you have to basically commit to taking it all out. So it depends on the nature of the grant funding as to what those requirements are going to be. That's kind of an extreme case, but you never know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I figured. Well, I lean towards let's be safe. If we're talking about it, we have all the information. Let's be safe. But I get it on terms of cost.
Yeah.
And especially, I think anything with health code level needs. Is that true? Needs more abatement. If we were exploiting.
I don't know that that's no. I wouldn't necessarily.
Okay. Right. That's an assumption. Okay. Cool.
No. I think it's really
Occupancy.
I think it's the risk of it. At this point, it's a risk of the asbestos becoming loose, and that's the way it's. That's the way to think about that.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Yep. We are good. I'll call you about my question for the art building. It's not a huge deal.
Okay. All right. That sounds great. So I'll stay in touch with you via email as I hear more from PBS.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great meeting.
You too. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
It's like, hopefully paperwork just comes faster, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so district reports.
Courtney, you want to jump in and go first?
Yeah. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up about a program that we heard about our acceptance into last week. It's called the K-12 Farm to School Institute that's provided by EcoTrust. And the goals of the program are to integrate more fresh local food into the cafeteria, have more structured ways for student and parent input into cafeteria meals, more hands-on activities in the classroom, garden. I mean, essentially just connecting the idea that healthy eating doesn't just happen in the cafeteria, that there's more conversation happening about it. And yeah, integrating more culturally diverse foods kind of based on input from the community. So those are the goals of the program. I'm really excited about it. And the way it will kind of be structured is that through July, we'll be looking to gather community input. And then in July, there's a group of 7 folks from nutrition services, admin, teachers, students that are going to go to a 3-day retreat with other folks from across the state doing this and put together an action plan. And then essentially the next following school year, they provide coaching to actually implement the plan through the monthly meetings. So I wanted to give you a heads up that that will be something that you'll be hearing more about, but also to ask as far as what your preferences might be for inputting as board members into some of those priorities. I don't know if it's something you want to have a discussion item about, if you want me to just send an email. I've got like some questions specifically for you guys that I'd like your input into, but I would love to make that as easy as possible for you. So whether it's a phone call or something in the future, but essentially it's just asking for what priorities, any potential challenges you might see, ways that you want to support, data that you want us to be tracking. Do you have any preferences?
Have to think about it. But that's
Maybe
super
the
exciting.
questions like help spark any of those.
Mhm.
So you're probably wondering like discussion wise here, or do we start off with just like you emailing and seeing,
Yeah.
asking those questions to us? I think that's enough.
Mhm.
Two of us aren't here, so.
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts on it, like, that's exciting. I want to look at the program more so I know more about it. I love that, sort of the idea and the possibilities that it brings up.
There's a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Courtney, would it work to do an email and or phone call with each board member and then kind of synthesize that and report it back out when that was ready, so that it was both public and like the whole, you all heard each other's input, that kind of thing? Would that be an approach
Yeah.
that works?
I mean, the only thing that comes to mind on the board level for me is like making sure somehow that we're represented well as a rural school, because EcoTrust is a Portland-based organization and also used to dealing with larger school districts than us. And so I often find in those situations that the things that come up and like the guidance towards a plan wouldn't necessarily fit us.
Assumes you have a nutrition department that's not doing something.
Exactly,
Yeah.
more than one person, more
Yeah.
than, yeah, and so, that would be my only, like, as far as the first board thing is like, let's make sure they really get us.
Yeah.
Like, they should come here and check us out.
Well, and I think the coach that they're planning to have connect with us is, he is the farm to school coordinator for Willamette for Lane County, and so he should be coming out here within the next couple of weeks for a visit, and we'll make sure he's well prepared for our approach. I think, we were pretty particular in our application about student voice, like, they don't have it as much into their program that students be a part of inputting into the plan, but that's definitely something, that's important to us. So we'll bring our own flavor.
Yeah,
Good.
that's awesome, very
I'll
exciting.
send an email and then I can follow up, just you can let me know what time works for you and give you a call.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll just run through a list here. At secondary levels, there's just a lot happening programming wise everywhere. It's not even just secondary, like all the way across. Some exciting things. We have 7 students working towards the youth support specialist training. I think I shared that was about to start last time, and Connected Lane County is leading that. We have a couple students doing it for credit needed for graduation. Some are doing it out of interest. OHA, they can get OHA certified at 18 years old, assuming they're 16 already. We're taking a handful of them, thank you Mizu for helping drive, on Friday to the behavioral health conference. So that's separate from the training, but a cool opportunity to engage with the mental and behavioral health field, which the youth support specialist is part of. So and one cool thing, the field most important of like the nothing about us without us is mental health. And there's this huge first time conference and there's not a lot of student voice on it. And so our students were part of creating kind of we called and said, what are you doing to represent students? And then there was a video put together that some of our students engaged in the interviews for that. So that'll be there. And then said, we got a handful, can you let them in at no cost? And they said yes. So it's not a cheap conference either. So they're comping our students to attend, which was exciting. So at the same time, at the same place, there is our Gear Up conference. They both happen to be at the Graduate Hotel in Eugene this year on the same date. So we'll have 4 students engaging with a team of staff, I forget how many, doing our annual data review and Gear Up planning for next year. And we've already seen a huge impact by having Gear Up capacity, emphasis, focus in terms of creating that college going culture. We're excited to kind of revisit our initial plan and then continue to build that out. So that's this weekend as well. Student-led conferences will be next week, Thursday and Friday. Just to make sure everybody knows, and we'll see this on the calendar item down there, the week that makes the most sense for student-led conferences is actually this week, but that Gear Up conference we know is always going to fall on that date. Unfortunately, somewhere in the scheduling, secondary moved it up a week, elementary moved it back a week, and when we figured out they weren't like aligned on the same dates, we thought it was important to have so that when families come, that the siblings are aligned. So for this time, we moved it to next week. You'll see on the draft schedule later that we moved it up a week instead because it is too late after. I know we talked about this, but so I talked about it with teachers too, where at some point it's like, there's not as much time left to actually address some of these things where
there's an issue, then you've lost a couple weeks.
Yeah, so we did address that for next year. Let's see, I'll jump down into, I have other things going on, but I want to get to this part. Michelle had sent an article to me about kind of like, emphasis on literacy and mathematics. Is that pushing science and social studies out? How much time is on those? I think I had talked about that maybe in my interview when I was getting hired. I will say for our new literacy curriculum, there is a lot of integration, especially of social studies concepts, and aligned to grade level standards, not just these things that are social studies out there. And I feel, and our teachers make a lot of time for social studies within the school day, right? There's at every grade level, I would say there's strong social studies happening. Science less so, but I think it's increasing, and where I've seen 3rd and 4th grade, Sarah Tempe does using some of the kits from and resources from the ESD and doing a unit there. That's worked really well. 5th and 6th has done some like human body connection things, and science is the area I want to keep kind of laying out what does it look like at each grade level? How much time on science are we getting? So definitely increasing, and definitely science is the part I think we can increase and align the most. And I'll also add health to that. I think there are health standards, especially at that kind of 3rd through 6th grade. Vanessa is incorporating more of that into the PE time, but I think really laying out those areas. Again, we're 4-day school week. You fit a lot into each day, and I don't think any deficits in those areas aren't a product of like not doing it well enough or not making it a priority. It's really getting intentional about within the school year and across 6 grades, where are we putting those units and standards in. So any questions on that? Michelle had asked me about that specifically, so she may have the most questions, but I'm happy to answer any, or if people have them later or hear something, keep bringing that one back to me. The other pieces I wanted to share, I think I shared last time that we were identified as one of the 50 schools qualifying for summer school funding. That plan was submitted on Monday. We're still working on the details of the plan, but dates we do have and are working to get those announced. That'll be June 17th through July 2nd, which is Monday through Friday, so that it's 12 days total. And we have to offer 80 hours within that program. So we landed on 9 of those 12 days will be like 9 to 3:30. And 3 of those days will be longer days with field trip based days. So working on the planning towards that, and I'll share more and look for flyers coming soon.
Is that K-6?
So yes. Similar model to the last 2 years, which I think ends up being 1st through 6th because they're all going to the next grade.
Mm-hmm.
And then with some opportunity for some high school volunteers, older student, I guess, it could be middle school too, aligned inside of that.
But no static stipend for any student participants?
Not with that money. So there's not enough. So we're still doing the staffing. We're gonna braid some funds with the after school and Friday school grant. We started that halfway through the year, so we do have some funds there to help with some of that. The answer is maybe for that. That the $32,000 that we get doesn't cover our costs for staffing. So I know it's a no to that. In what we can bridge, if we can pay students with that, then that part's a maybe. So
yeah, I mean, I just think we should do that whenever we use students, actually, because there aren't many employment opportunities for students out here, especially ones that might involve transportation to and from and stuff like that too. If they can hop on a bus or something like that.
Yeah, in the plan I submitted, I put a handful of students impact. You put how many attend and how many staffing, and I think I put a couple on each part to show that there was connection. Mm-hmm. And bottom line, this one comes down to funding. There's 50 districts that aren't as mad, but there's also that amount of money doesn't go very far. And when you look at offering a program, even 80 hours for 12 days, the cost is actually higher than $32,000. Yeah. So
no, totally. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I just want us to always consider that, because any chance for students to be employed within our community is a great chance.
Yep. So. Totally agree. One other thing that's out there that I keep advocating for that same thing is Blaine ESD is offering a camp for life skills students in the county, and that'll be held in South Lane, I think is where they landed. Is that true? Yeah, that's true. The vision for that program, that camp long-term, is unified general ed students alongside, but they don't think they're gonna be able to get that full vision off the ground for this year, just based on timing, but I keep saying, how about student workers, if we wanna build our pipeline for educators down the road, we need to be including students in all of these opportunities, so totally agree, and just don't wanna overpromise yet.
Yeah, no, I'm not like, that, it's not a real comment on this plan, except for just that to always have it in there as one of the things that is under consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also were funded for the Stronger Connections grant. I was telling you guys I was waiting to hear on that. We were funded at 80% of I put in for, I'm forgetting numbers off, oh my gosh. 669 was the total that I submitted for. We were funded at 80%. Jeremy and I met this morning, kind of looked through impacts and cuts to what we need to do to that to resubmit the budget. But what that does provide us is opportunity to shift, well, both hire and shift our administrative staffing. I think I sent a email at some point of what we were kind of hoping for. And so our plan is to post an elementary, full-time elementary principal position and take steps forward to get us into a better alignment for administrative staffing. So this is 2-year funding. And we talked about, increasing administrative capacity right now is needed, and the goal is a path forward to get us back to not being, having all these different piecemeal positions. So this would be step 1 in that. And
Does it make it, if it's like a 2-year thing, what's what we currently do plus that, and in the future the sustainability of the employment of?
Yeah, is it the plan isn't to have so even one shift is like Kay's been helping us out this year, stepping into administrative role out of Gear Up. She's working well beyond what we asked her to do, and she's awesome. And also that's not even it's probably not even a like legit plan, let alone sustainable, right? So what this allows us to do is get that position corrected to be back into Gear Up of what she actually like signed up for in the first place, and then start aligning back to having full-time principals at the 2 schools. And I just want to share specifically what we put into this grant is administrative staffing for what they call it in the grant. They use MTSS language, multi-tier systems of support, that are really, hey, we have all these things happening, increased programming, increased wraparound services, all of these pieces. This is the system building to make all those work together and not be operating discretely. So, and that every student has that kind of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 level of supports that are identified. We're progress monitoring. Are they, what are the impacts? Are they working? What other piece do we need? So I'm excited about that capacity, and our focus on that is better than it was, and because we're spread thin, it's nowhere near where it needs to be. And so this will help us build those systems, have them in place so that we don't need that extra position later. Hopefully that makes sense. So the other piece of that is funding a full-time mental health therapist. I had been working with Peace Health. We have the 1 day a week model right now. We had 2 mental health therapists that come 1 day a week, and one resigned with Peace Health, so we only have 1 right now. That model, we're happy to have any services, and that model of the 1 day a week isn't meeting the needs that we have, and so this is to get a full-time mental health therapist, still on a bill for model, but that is our Mapleton person instead of just coming part-time. So super excited to have a meeting scheduled with Peace Health. Oh, actually I have to respond to the email with choices, but in the next couple of weeks I'll be meeting with them to get that moving forward. So super excited about that. Yeah, there's a few other things in there. Some of them I have to cut out because of money. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you so much.
I like that backpack.
It's got a lot of stuff on it.
I know. Really like that backpack.
Good tactical.
And then the last thing I wanted to just make sure everybody had information about, Jaren and I were working a lot on this today. I don't remember the legislation, like House Bill number, but classified unemployment, is that on anybody's radar? There's legislation passed whenever all of it passed, that classified staff can submit for unemployment during non-work parts of the year. So during summer, you can submit for unemployment up to your number of hours you normally work during the year. It's complex because, while of course we want all of our staff to make to have that money and be paid during those times, that's at the cost to the district of not working at times that we've always operated where they don't work at that time. And so every district I was gonna say America, that's not true. Every district in Oregon is quickly trying to figure out what that means.
Is it a have to?
No, so every classified staff, and jump in and correct me wherever I miss here, but has the opportunity to put in for it. There's, what do we want to say about the employment part? So what folks are not, what district folks don't know yet is what will be approved and what will not. And if you were offered work and didn't accept it, will you still get approved for unemployment? And part of the question around that is no other funding came into this bill.
Right.
So there's certainly an increased cost to districts. There's also an increased cost to the employment, like labor, whoever processes those, without more folks to process those. And so we don't know if it's going to be just like, if it comes in, it's a thing. Every district's talking about this. I've heard all sorts of like approaches to trying to figure out what to do. Jaren and I met and said, well, if kind of everybody eligible put in for it, we expect this cost, right? And we need to see the impact of it. So I met with Christina earlier today to have this discussion. It was on her list too, and kind of talked through it and said, of course, we don't want to keep anybody from putting in for unemployment. We're also going to put out a number of job opportunities. Well, summer school, of course, like we've always offered that, but we're going to put some other pieces of work that are like, hey, here's some things that would be helpful. We'd love for you to come get paid to do those things. But you also have the right to put in for the unemployment and kind of just test the system and see where it puts us. We feel comfortable for 1 year. We can afford whatever the cost is. But the longer term, and I said this with Christina with the classified union, long-term districts are gonna have to say, well, if we'll budget that in, but that may be at the cost of a position later.
Right.
What is that impact? And so that's where everybody's at right now. And what we wanna use it for, to be fully transparent, we wanna know the full impact so that we can be advocating for like, this was the impact when you're funding schools and saying, hey, enrollment's lower or yada, yada, we're gonna cut costs. Don't forget, you already increased costs with this rule.
Yeah,
So.
that's a significant increase.
Mhm.
But, I mean, it seems to me like that's moving towards a 12-month contract type deal. Or,
Without a 12-month school year, and so.
well, I mean, like teacher, like certified staff.
Yeah, is that,
We pay them that way anyways.
Yeah.
And then you pay them on a
Yeah.
12-month.
Yeah.
but not for 12 months. Yeah, that's I mean, but even teachers were not paying
No.
for 12
No,
months, so,
you're just-
yeah.
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 Mhm. So I guess maybe that's the wrong, perspective, but it does seem like it's moving towards, one way or another, districts are gonna be required to, pay in a different way, but right now, not receiving any additional funding. I don't know, I'm just
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, what I feel like it's pushing, in all honesty, is like, if districts are forced to, and I hope nobody goes and quotes me and says, Sue's moving to this, that's not true, but I feel like the common sense is to say, well, if the expectation is that we pay people for the full year, then we should be providing services the full year.
Yeah.
And do you look at a different calendar, right? Or those kind of things, like, but then that's increased days, that's increased
Yeah.
cost all around. Like, I don't
Right.
know what the answer is.
Yeah, interesting.
So
Yeah.
we're all gonna figure this out together. But our first approach is gonna be like, let's see what the impact is. We know we can afford it for one summer, so
Yeah.
we're gonna do that.
And I do like that classified staff could, would be able to potentially be more, that's a better, I don't know, just better to be able to make a living for themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
I'm all about pay equity,
Yeah.
and I don't love it being at the expense of districts who frankly can't afford it. I mean, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is a cost that we have that we can't afford, which could result in layoffs.
Yep.
And that is going to impact someone a lot more than not getting
Yeah.
unemployment in a
For
summer.
the summer.
So
That's-
I'm really torn
You would
about
think if
this.
they-
I
we
feel
all
like
are.
this is like one of those moments where they like reacted to like equity concerns, which happens. Like, there's equity concerns across the board, across a lot of industries. And I just feel like this was like this moment of like, this is something we can do. Who's gonna pay for that? The districts.
You already know they can't. Yeah.
Well, and also
Okay.
just like,
So it's a little concerning.
and to not say, we're gonna implement this in 2 years,
Yeah, so this
that
is
you
So
just
maybe
have-
there's conversation of trying to find
This will be like at the end of this school year.
Went into effect, January 1 or sometime, I mean,
Of this
in all reality, they could have claimed unemployment during spring break. They can.
Oh, it was
they can
January
claim-
1 of this year, sorry, I just heard you say.
Yeah, they can claim it during spring break, they can claim it during Thanksgiving break, they can claim it during Christmas break. Well, Thanksgiving break's a little tougher because they got 2 paid days then, but. And where we are a 4-day district, they can claim those Fridays as the 5-day waitings, so they can immediately go into
So their waiting days can be done.
and stuff, so it's, and we don't deal with this, but you have other districts that have at least 50 FTE who are paying summer insurance for these people already,
Right.
and now you're paying unemployment for them too. I mean, so,
It's a scary situation, honestly.
so yeah, business managers saying, okay, well, I mean, if they're claiming unemployment, why are we paying insurance for them for those months? Then they can take over then. And
Wow.
stuff, which will.
State.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, and parts of my feeling is, okay, you have custodial staff who have always actually been able to take unemployment during the summer, but they work during the summer, so it's a moot point. Now, they're gonna still be working during the summer,
Yeah.
and these people are gonna get paid to do nothing.
Yeah.
And you give a mouse a cookie, teachers aren't working during the summer.
I guess I understand, like.
OEA was
pay
the one
equity,
pushing
but it
for
doesn't
this.
Feel equitable.
Are they just gonna push for teachers to say, hey,
Yeah.
teachers ought to be getting paid too?
That's kind of where my mind went.
Yeah, me too.
It's like, they're off in the summer too, so
Yeah.
it doesn't, I don't know. like you guys were saying, the pay equity, but it doesn't feel equitable.
Well,
Yeah, I
and
just mentioned that, like, I feel like that's the catalyst of this.
For
without-
sure. I get
Without
what you're saying,
the
yeah, and
it-
thought
for sure.
through.
And it might be what it sparked the
Totally,
thought of this,
which is
but
a good
it's-
thing to have that conversation,
but
but
it's
then
not-
they didn't
it's a
actually.
mess.
Not
They
saying
didn't
It's a
plan it out
mess.
or
Yeah.
like really talk about.
Oh, it just, I feel like it's ugly for everyone.
well, especially because a lot of the EAs are people who want to have the summer off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
My child has the summer off, you know, mothers and stuff. I wanna be there in the
I
summer.
loved it.
I mean, yeah. And our secretaries can take it also, Jamie and Carly can
Oh, that's
take
right.
it. And stuff for their, I mean,
I thought there
their
was one
contract is extended,
clarification
but they,
or confidential. Let's check that. I thought there was one clarification that came through COSA for that. I'll check it.
but yeah.
So, but it's big, so wanted to make sure you guys had that. That was the
Thanks for that lovely
hot
news.
topic at a lot of meetings lately, but I feel like it's because we're getting close to summer,
Yeah.
it's getting more and more real. Superintendent Council, we made time to sit in groups and everybody share thoughts around it and those kind of things, and super helpful to hear. And
Is this information being pushed out to the staff?
so that was part of our conversation this morning. Christina and I met. We're like, this is it's a union
Yes.
role
I
to
feel
support
like-
it. So
yeah.
and just to share, I told Christina I was going to talk about it tonight. I said, hey, we're going to answer questions. And to Jaren's point earlier, like when we talked earlier, he's not an unemployment specialist. He shouldn't be in a role to be giving
Yeah.
any advice about it. And so we're being very transparent that it's an option. We've talked with Christina about it, and I don't know that she has all the information, but my advice was call the OEA. Is that what it? Yeah. The union, and I'm sure they have supports to send out, and it needs to come through that avenue. So that's kind of how we're going to navigate it here.
All right.
And there's no word from the unemployment department on
Not a word.
how things are planned out and stuff.
Yeah.
They,
They're probably frantic about it too.
I'm positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my updates for the day. Was that enough?
Yeah, that's plenty. That's one to end on.
Yeah.
All right, finance tech maintenance report.
we spent some money, we probably fixed some stuff.
Spend some more money.
I didn't spend too much money this month, I only had a few
Our
checks.
capital improvements are now unemployment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
so,
have a line item.
It's a costly meeting.
It is a really costly.
Yeah.
yeah.
I actually, yeah.
We, just to talk about more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
one today's about money.
Yeah.
The freezer on the other side,
Oh, I heard about this.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's,
The earth has moved.
yeah, froze some pipes, they rerouted the water. But basically we're getting a new freezer, so we're looking into that, so.
Wow.
Put it in a better location to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
cover back.
We're gonna move
Those
it
are
out of there.
things you're supposed to encounter, so.
Yeah.
This anticipating about 25 grand for a new freezer.
There was a room of flooring, right?
Say it again.
I said there was a room of flooring.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
the deal though. Like
Yeah.
when I hear those things and do we jump all in? It's like, well,
Like,
this is
wait, I know
crazy.
about this cost and this
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then just Randy's gonna not thaw that out until, not turn off whatever's going to there until summer in case when it thaws out it floods. So
Sure. Good idea.
we're timing that strategically.
Oh my God.
I know. Question just about summer projects and stuff. Is there like a list? I know Randy has like, priorities and a list. Is there one, and can we, I don't know if it needs to be a board seeing it, but I'm curious, cause there's like some things I wonder are they on the list?
Are they on the list?
Yeah.
I don't have a list to share right now.
No,
but we
I
can
know,
make
I'm
it-
sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
one other thing there's like an electric, conversation about running some more power to, I point to that every time, it's right there. Chris's room for more, just because we're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
so much electronics in there, we actually need a
More
couple power, yeah, and then, a little bit of a conversation about, electric out in the industrial arts building for the kiln. That's actually what I'm gonna call, Kurt about is where does the kiln actually make sense?
Yeah. Cause my question is every day now that I drive the parking lot, you know, like there's that sinking, there's the depressed part.
Where they had to cut
where
out.
they had to cut out, and it's seems like it's getting
Deeper,
bigger.
on the actual hill?
No, right out.
No,
here,
it's right
here,
out here, that
across
low
the
spot where they had to cut
Yeah.
across the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
You're just
That's
used to
Oh.
running through it now.
Yeah.
It's always been there. Yeah, I know.
Well,
you're
no, I mean.
I mean, for me, for you,
Yeah,
yeah.
for you, yeah, but it seems like it's getting
Yeah, I
deeper.
feel it more.
Me too.
There's a
Yeah.
pothole on the hill right now too. That
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
that's
that
on my
one's a
list.
doozy.
Maybe
I
some
hit it
asphalt
pretty. I
there.
didn't see it
Yeah.
until I hit
It's
it
a
pretty hard.
Until you hit it.
pothole.
Yeah, and now I'm
There's an
very aware of
alignment.
it.
Yeah.
I have one maybe to request, just because before we know it, we're right back in the gyms again, but, I mean, there's the lights, but I don't know the solution for the lights, other than
Yeah.
seizures, but,
I don't think that's the solution.
yeah, we're just gonna all start having seizures.
Yeah. Put in
Why?
some medical claims and then.
Yeah. It doesn't, I don't understand why it's happening, but what is it, the concession stands, but I know that's also the food area for the daytime area, but, I don't know what's with the wiring in there, but you can't run very many things. Like, it really limits the concession options, and I know it's a struggle, like, they can't run a griddle or the warmers, and then we can never run a popcorn popper, and,
In where we like
Yeah.
where we do lunch
in
too,
there,
right?
yeah, like, that one day we're flicking
What do we
breakers, like,
call that?
Yeah,
I
Galley?
know we're
was
flicking
that-
breakers,
that
like,
was
it just
that
wouldn't work.
game or whatever.
Mhm.
That was crazy.
Okay, the galley, is that what we call that?
Is
Or
it?
it says, there's some.
Yeah,
stat on
Salty's
it.
Galley,
Okay,
I think
yeah,
that's what it is on there, but like, that seems like an easy enough.
Especially if we're
repair.
bringing out for wiring.
Yeah,
for
if you're
other-
bringing someone out,
Right.
have them ramp that puppy up,
Okay.
give a whole lot more wattage in there.
Totally, and
Would be awesome.
and I was like, I'm a little nervous about even saying all these things, cause like, there's probably a different list that Randy has that has like higher
Other
priorities
things.
on it,
Well,
and I don't
but
want him to feel like we're imposing.
No, but I can go
But
ask
thank you for
where
reminding
these
me of
would
that,
fall.
because I really
Yeah.
did wanna make sure that like,
Yeah.
because it's gonna house a lot of people for months, you know, and.
Yeah. Yeah.
It always is a struggle in there that we can't run very many things, and it doesn't seem like it should have. I'm like, God, when we remodeled, how was that missed?
Cool, I'll bring those and ask them where on the list they can be, and then I'll give an update that way. Does that work?
Great,
Yeah.
totally.
Okay, so we're on a consent agenda, right? We're done with the other thing?
I think so.
Okay, so everyone's looked over all those things?
Yeah.
Okay, I will take a motion to,
I'll move to approve a consent agenda 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3.
oh, yeah, any discussion? Thanks,
No.
Mizu. Does someone want to?
There's no second.
No, it's good, I'll second.
Okay, well, all in favor? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Anyone
It feels
opposed?
so different today. I think I should put my feet up.
It's a little cash.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And then I feel like it's dim in here or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
All
Put
right,
that on the
so
list too.
action items. So I assume then number 2 on resignation, turn in resignation.
Yes. Yep. Did they both make it?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Those were.
Yeah,
On
one of
there.
them was submitted today, so.
perfect.
The one, it's the back.
Yeah.
Facing, anyway, check out the back. So yeah.
That's what I turned to earlier.
What is that?
Bus,
I think that was just an.
oh, we did
typo.
put it as siren. Yeah, sorry, I read this wrong.
I think so.
Wendy has resigned as bus driver. We have a new bus driver starting on Monday. They've already come over and done a couple routes with us, and are up and ready to be moving. And then Terry submitted her retirement, and another one that I tried to say no to, but she probably deserves retirement. So I just, want to acknowledge, like, she says in her, I love the language, we started a lot of babies
I know,
together,
yeah.
and
She really did.
Yeah, and I've heard that language talked about since before I started here, the way she, and just to formally acknowledge, and I'm gonna leave out a lot of babies when I do this, but Salty's Closet, partnership with 15th Night and other organizations, when any kid we have a need for, it's like, hey, I need size 2 shoes like in 30 minutes, and somehow size 2 shoes show up faster than you would expect. Community service hours, being just service as a core and key piece of everything we do here. During the pandemic, the formal requirement of that went away. We're working to phase that back in so that it's not overwhelming for kids trying to graduate right now. But I can assure you, is that true? Well, let me make sure I'm not gonna lie. I believe that every one of our students set to graduate have met at least the annual requirement in terms of the amount of service they're doing. Like, she's creating opportunities all the time. She goes and seeks out certain kids for certain opportunities. Like, she's awesome. And then Salty's coffee shop is a thing and will always be a thing because of Terry's love and commitment to that program. And it's so much deeper than just having coffee here in the morning. It's the skills that they're learning along the way. Anytime there's a what's the word I want to use? Just an impact with the coffee shop with academics. She's so thoughtful about building the skills of the workers to address whatever that tension is. And I think she's awesome. I don't know what else to say, but there's not enough that can be said, and she's gonna be missed. And those are big shoes to fill, and we talked about Joyce before. Those are 2 big pairs of shoes to fill, and if only I could just call and say I need 2 big pairs of shoes to be filled by June 30th. Hopefully she can help get us there, and she's leaving lots of notes and lots of just so thoughtful about how she's doing things. So grateful. And then I think I shared we got our early literacy grant. We're hiring that as an instructional coaching position, and Elizabeth Hudgens, that's for next school year, will be serving in that role if you all say yes. So.
Well, I think I'll treat these 2 separately, right?
The calendar.
The calendar and the personnel, so I can entertain a motion for 8.1, the personnel.
I move to approve 8.1 personnel, which includes resignation of Wendy Brown, and Terry Johnson, and hiring of Brenda Dutra and Elizabeth Hutchins.
I'll second.
All those in favor? And nobody else to oppose? Okay, 8.2.
And then the school calendar, do you have a draft?
Yeah, we all have a draft, right? You printed the color one at school.
Yep, and this has gone through, I met with Clara earlier today, and I think we're in a good spot. We did move, does this one show the updated
the 9-week thing?
Conference time?
Yeah,
it does. Okay. That was the piece that we moved from her feedback, and
I did have a concern about it, or a question.
Yeah.
Mostly because it did come up a couple months ago when we were talking about survey-wise even, right, doing 360-wise or whatever, and we had discussed a late start, how effective is that, or how's everyone feeling about that?
Yeah.
And so I know it's included on here, but then I was like, wait, we haven't.
Are we still
in
in
the
spot there? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's the middle of April, and
It is.
I'd really love to find a way to do that, complete it, take information for all sorts of aspects. But that's definitely one I know we talked about before. Yeah. So I don't know how that impacts that. I mean, if we're found that some adjustment was needed, how does that impact this? us approving this or not versus findings on
Yeah, I did,
that information.
from a teacher perspective, I forgot, Claire and I did talk about that, some today, and, I guess, this doesn't include, parent input, this is from a, standpoint here. I feel like where we've, maximized that the most this year is classified staff, ongoing PD, literally every Wednesday with an outside organization plus an administrator of ours, really supporting classified staff, which in many districts, you don't, like classified staff just don't get trained because there's not time. And so positive feedback through Claire today when we were talking, and acknowledgement that that's where we've been most successful. I'm totally honest with her and you all. What for the teaching staff, we're not there yet this year, and some of that is capacity, like that's gonna exist next year with these hirings, and so my hope and what I talked to her about was really this year I think we scratched the surface of what's possible with it. What she and I talked about, when you don't have that time, collaboration time on a deep level just doesn't exist. Like there's nowhere to put it, right? And organizing the committees and all the things towards leadership where we want to get to. I'm of the opinion we need that block in order to do it right. And this year, I think I'll say personally fell short of where that's possible to get to because of an underestimate of the impact of splitting across two campuses this year. And other things came up, not excuse making, just we're not there yet. But I do think we have a plan for being super intentional with that time for next year and the capacity to actually follow through with it in a way that deepens it to the point that are like, yes, it, like we always want an hour more with students, right? I think we'd go Fridays with students too if, well, some people like for it. Anyway, more time with students on task, the give and take of that. Mm-hmm. I do believe that time can be so intentionally used to see those systems in place that it's like, okay, our impact during the time we do have them is deeper because of the time we have to collaborate together there. And my hope is with one more year, everybody's like, oh yeah, we get it. We see these things. And this year, I think with teachers, we just scratched the surface. With classified staff, I think we're seeing the impacts of those systems in place. And we didn't even get that fully set up until about halfway through the school year because we were working with other organizations. So I don't know if that's helpful. I know that doesn't account for large scale input through there. And I don't know, I'll just advocate, my personal hope is that we can see that through for one more year to truly see what the impacts of it are.
But did you get so you didn't get teacher input on how they feel about the late
start, through Claro, I have some, that's what that conversation was through the scheduling, in terms of a deep conversation about where, impacts of it. I don't know I guess that answer is kind of.
So what do the teachers do on Wednesday? Because I know there's open gym and there's students here sometimes already, and there was some Romella's, or there's been students that have often asked come early so they can do stuff for whatever, a teacher, or maybe for gardening or for and so I just am wondering, are teachers still just here supervising kids?
No. So we have outside, there's a few things like outdoor school where they use that time. They needed time with kids, so there's been a time for that. But the intention is that like, that's literally not what they're doing. And that's where the open gym space came from. Some of our older kids
But there's,
can.
and it's other staff.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
And then, so, cause just like, I do come into the school, I mean, not as often as I probably should, but, and I do a little bit of volunteering and like guest speaking and stuff like that. And I, just some of the, like, just the off the cut, like, again, this isn't like a real conversation, so I'm kind of even hesitant to say it, but it's just like, sometimes like one of my best days to come in is on Wednesdays, and so it's always, the day is impacted by that late start, and it seems to not always like that it's being treated like it throws a wrench in the day versus it being like a useful thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm so sorry, yeah, it's that late start, it makes the day so weird, it makes this period too short, and I can't, and so there's just been like little buzzings of that, and so I just want to, like, that's why I think I brought up the teacher input, or maybe it was you, I think it was me.
I think
like,
you had brought it up.
yeah, just like the teacher input, just because I wanted to know, like I know the intention behind it, and I actually really believe in what you're doing,
Yeah.
especially because so many teachers are just tasked with like, you've got to make sure you reach your PD requirements, and like if like at the end of the year, whatever, we got to check a box that you did it, and you guys got to figure that out on your own time.
Yeah.
And I don't want that for us. Like, I do want what you're trying
The
to do.
intentionality, yeah.
But if it's not, if this isn't the effective way to do it, then I just kind of want to, I don't know. I'm just
Like a more intentionalness of like, no, you're not doing other projects. Like even say that like for outdoor school, no, you don't get to utilize that time for that. Like being intentional, like, no, this is where you are. You're here. You're here all together with us. Students aren't interrupting or making up a test or trying to do a project with you, or like, that's not the intent of it. The intentionalness of it, maybe they have feedback or something for it. I don't know if anyone knows how fast it is to turn around a survey. I mean, we'd have to come up with intentional questions, but because I feel like if we don't do it soon, regardless of this one issue, we just don't do it. And I'm sad that we didn't think about it and move on it faster, like early March or something, but I don't know how quick those things are to turn around, just to know their feedback for it. I think the intent of it is valid and good if they all also buy into it and understand that.
And
it doesn't need more time, maybe.
Buy in. I just, because there is still a place for you to be like, you might not be bought in yet, but give me another year. Like, I also acknowledge that, and I recognize that. But just like, even if there was, it's just we're making assumptions about what the teachers are how they feel, or if this seems to be a truly effective use of time. I don't want to make assumptions about them. I just want to hear from them.
I'll
Can we just like put out like a 5-question Google form?
I'll get that
thinking.
and say, it's fine. And yeah, obviously I'm biased. I don't want to switch it.
Sure.
Period. Right? Like I'll name that because I think we're nowhere near what it could be, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the bottom line. Like that, I acknowledge. Where I think teacher input, we need to do how am I trying to say this? I guess this is the question. Framing it not as does it stay or does it go, but how do we maximize it, and what are we not thinking? What are the unintended consequences of it, or intended? Where were those spaces, and is there anything we can do to attend to those?
Yeah, it could totally be like that.
Is how I'd rather frame it, and in a year, this is what I talked to Claire about too. In a year, I would love to sit down and say, okay, now it's flying. If it's not flying, it's because it's not working, right? It's the wrong use of the time, those kind of things. Then framing it as yes or no, does it stay or go? I'm super open to.
Yeah.
I don't even want to frame that because I don't even want to ask. Yeah.
What worked well and what maybe could use some improvement. I like those types of questions anyway,
exactly.
but that's the type of feedback I want.
Perfect.
I'm not saying like,
100%.
was this good for you? And if it's not, should we get rid of it?
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same
No.
page about that. Yeah. Yeah, I'll turn that around quick.
Cool.
So, cool.
But that's not on here anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just days.
They are
I think they are
on here.
No, it's on here. It's right. It's right on
How
the
do we
Oh, yeah.
show it?
top here. It says it up in the upper left.
Yes, there.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
colored,
it's
it just
on
doesn't show
another
up on the-
Yeah,
copy.
I
It's actually
printed
another
it,
color.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like light
Yeah, and
yellow.
so they make it light yellow on all them.
Yeah, I see. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know.
Just
I
strike
mean,
that apostrophe on Wednesdays. No, it's good to me.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I'm just being stubborn about it or like, is this you have to have this now?
It's ideal. It's funny. A lot of districts do this like 2 months ago, and it's out, and it's so important, and it's all the things. I feel like I always feel pressured when I see all theirs out of like, oh, we should put it. And I think it's important to tell families if it's, to plan whatever it is people plan way ahead of time. I don't operate that way, but
I mean, we could, like, what we did to add that, I think, was a separate, separate conversation to add it last year. I don't think we did it at the time we adopted the calendar last year when we made the change to late start Wednesdays. So I don't know,
Like, I'm fine with the date book out. Like, I think it was arranged well. I love that you moved the 39-week thing, all of that.
So we could go ahead.
I mean, I'm fine with, like, I like your advocation for keeping it for another year, giving it another shot, but I don't want that to forego like true honest feedback.
yeah.
But like I'm okay
100%
to vote on
committed
this
to
now
getting
with late starts on Wednesdays, like with that, like with your explanation of like, yes, it wasn't exactly what we wanted to be. It will be next year, and then having some of that teacher feedback, and then maybe having something that would show like what that hour really is used for, or something like that. I mean, like, so I'm fine to vote on it as it is now, but I was like, when it came out, I remembered we asked for that, and then it hadn't happened, and then I was kind of like, where are we with that?
And is there any way to get family feedback too? It's harder.
It's hard, but
I know. I just, I don't know I'm curious how
How it
it's impacting
impacted them.
families. I have no idea. I know.
You know, it's
definitely just throws our schedule every year. Different on Wednesdays, but I don't mind it. But
so I feel like early on there were like some questions. I'm not aware. Hopefully I'm not lying. I can't recall a single, because we have the open gym with coverage in the morning. I can't think of a single negative like feedback.
You haven't gotten
not a single one after the first. The first week it was like, this is confusing. Transportation. But I would say after like 2 weeks there wasn't. I can think of one student who said the energy felt different on Wednesdays, and we did some time. There was a change based on that. I can't remember the exact. That was probably like 8 weeks, 12 weeks in. And then there is the thing I hear all the time, and this is more from teachers, not, but this is just staff. It's like, hey, what class are they in? And it's like, oh, it's Wednesday, it's that other schedule. And you have to remember the impacts of that hour. So you are operating off of another time on those days. But parents, we really, and I'm trying to think if we've heard positive either. I think I've heard like 2 positive statements and 0 negative. So it's not like we've heard a ton, but it really was.
But I mean, a lot of times families will be like, well, this is the way it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like,
Well, they finally have to because they need to like.
Yeah.
I gotta know my plan.
But we are having student-led conferences where
What I was
we're going to have a
thinking.
lot of conversations with families.
Can it be a question for parents and
Yeah.
students?
Yeah, and maybe not on same slant to it. Like, hey, like, what do you think
What
about
works?
this?
Yeah,
what
yeah.
works?
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
it's fine.
Not leading
Because
to
I think
anything.
like for us, the later transportation, isn't for my family, that's not a problem, but
Yeah.
like, I
For an
think,
elementary school, like where a
Mhm.
parent can't leave, like I
Yeah.
can leave and my kids can get on the bus
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
Or maybe if there's this
Mhm.
Elementary school student, but they have an older sibling, that's,
Yeah.
again.
But what if you had
But what
a
if
first
not?
and a third grader
Yeah.
or something?
or, but maybe they really love it because those first and third graders need a little extra sleep once a week, you know, and that helps them. So
Yeah.
like,
Totally.
I think the positives and the, issues may come out.
Yeah, but I think having like a little form to fill out at conferences could
Yeah.
work well and I'll probably throw another topic or two
And
on
would
there
you do
too,
it
since we're-
parental wise only, or are you concerned of any student?
I'll have it for both. I'll just
Okay.
have them
Yeah,
mark, are you
cool.
a student or a parent?
Okay, so
And
now,
when they're-
I'm feeling like what is like the worst thing that could happen if we like waited to approve this till next month? Like, is it really, like, is that just unheard of to not approve till May? Cause that is
That was
so
my
freaking
question.
late. Now I'm like really curious about the,
Yeah,
I mean,
but
I also.
and we revisited it. I mean, last year we approved it and then found a
That's what I'm saying.
mistake on it for a holiday
Wait, like, I'm not-
and came
I
back
don't-
and made a switch.
Mhm.
I don't assume that the feedback necessarily from our talk in the room today is going to alter it necessarily.
Yeah.
I think I just want that confirmation.
Well, now that you worded it that way, though, maybe I'm the opposite. Like,
And
it's not like that feedback's gonna change if we do it. I'm still okay with like giving it another year.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever you guys
And
wanna do.
I think we should approve this, because the major thing people want to plan around is not the Wednesdays, it's
Yeah,
the
you're
start
right.
date.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like
And-
the days I'm
and
fine
so-
with. If it's
yeah.
not gonna be, say worst case scenario,
Yeah.
we're like, no.
Worst
we
case
don't
scenario,
want,
we
like,
come
we
back
don't
and you
want any
guys say we
more
wanna go back and get rid of that hour.
Is it gonna
I might
change?
beg and plead,
It's not gonna change the
yeah,
days,
and- yeah.
right? The
Nope.
kids are still gonna be in school.
Yep.
Yeah.
They would
Same
just
number
come at
of
8,
days.
10 again.
Okay,
Yep.
alright, so
Like,
then we can approve it.
So we can
today.
approve it as the days go. We all know that we want feedback on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so go for it, ladies.
Okay, well, I'll move then to approve the Mapleton School District calendar for 24-25 school year.
I will second.
And we've had our discussion, I assume, so all in favor?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, yeah. Yes,
all
sorry,
right.
I don't know why I feel
Well,
like I
that's
was
what I
beating a
did
dead
all-
horse, I'm so
All day
sorry.
today, that's in
Like,
my
I'm
head.
fine with it.
No,
just-
but the feedback's important, so
Yeah.
we'll get that shared out
I
and
just,
then.
yeah, it'd be nice to hear people's
Yeah.
like personal impact.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, and I think it helps for like the vision for
Mhm.
next
Oh, what to do with
year.
it, for
Yeah.
sure.
what everyone's expectations are, so.
For sure.
Right, discussion items, the budget committee, we have some yeses. Did we find out who Miranda is? Is it a last name, first name?
Oh, Miranda.
It was Nancy Miranda.
Nancy Miranda.
That's
Okay, we
what
weren't
we
sure. We
Oh,
were
yes.
like, it said Miranda, so we
Yeah,
didn't know.
we had a comment. I was
But that
supposed to
one's
ask and I
just-
didn't.
So all the
So,
other first names were listed, so we're like, is that
Gotcha.
Miranda Vermilia or
Gotcha.
Army Campbell, you know,
Yeah,
who is it?
Gotcha,
No.
yeah.
so Nancy Miranda would be a
Okay.
no, I assume.
Right.
So I need 2 people.
2 people.
Okay.
How do we want to do, like, recommendations of people that we reach out to?
So because we're getting like low on time, do we mandatorily have to have 5?
No,
Okay, but 4 preferred, like what happens worst case scenario, we have 3?
it's fine.
Okay.
A lot of districts don't.
Okay.
But like, yeah, what about, since time is of the essence, but we also, I'm thinking of all the contact time we have
Yeah,
with parents at
exactly.
conferences, like with community and
Oh,
stuff.
we had so many people at the last meeting and
Right.
mentioned it and nobody.
We
No
did,
one's
nobody
jumped on
said.
it.
And then they were like,
Somebody wrote to
not
me,
showing up
so-
again. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Nobody
They're not
else.
hot enough
They'll stick me on a committee.
We do have a lot of contact times, like,
Mhm.
so we're asking for more.
Well, I'm thinking about,
When are we doing the budget committee?
I think
meeting?
we did pass the count.
Yeah.
Well, usually they meet, because I was on the budget committee prior to being on the board, and we met
A week before.
Yeah.
the week before the
Yeah.
board meeting and then at the board meeting. So is that kind of because usually, if we're gonna reach out to people, even if we're just trying to find one more, the first question is gonna be is when.
When,
yeah.
So I just didn't know if we had dates.
We
you
passed
showed
the,
them
we
last
passed
time,
the
right?
budget, we
Yeah.
passed the
The
budget calendar.
dates,
I
yeah.
just don't remember
Oh,
what it
I
is.
think,
Yeah.
and
It's-
one, I
wrote it
did
down,
miss a
actually.
So
meeting.
it's the Wednesday before
I did miss a meeting, I'm sorry,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
So second weekend.
Oh, yeah, that was the one.
Yeah,
That
wasn't
was the one,
Yeah.
I think, so I think that might be why.
And we did, yeah, last month we passed it.
So
Oh,
they'll
no, then I'm
meet,
just crazy.
oh, wow, okay, so our board meeting is actually May 15th, because the first is on a Wednesday, is that right?
Yeah, I
Thursday.
think so.
So it makes it really fast, because that means they meet on May
Ooh,
8th.
okay.
Yeah, so it's pretty quick.
5-8, and that's if they, how do I
If they
say
want
that?
to.
That's
That's
an
like the
optional,
budget 101,
come
the
learn
training.
about what,
Yeah,
how the
okay.
budget works
Okay.
and do those things.
And then May
Well,
15th.
If they
meet,
weren't
like,
available
ahead of
there but
time.
had some questions, they could also come ask them
Yeah.
prior to the
Right,
meeting
then
on
they
the
meet
15th.
At
kind of.
like 5 or something, they
Yeah,
meet
that's
before
what we
us,
did,
right? Okay.
we met
Oh,
like
no, we all meet, usually we start that one at 5,
Okay, so we
Yeah.
all come
Yeah.
with them, okay, okay.
oh.
cause that's when we,
I mean, mine was during COVID, those were the dark years, so like, everything was on the phone.
Right.
I think
Okay.
yeah, I just
So
don't
it'll be a
remember.
5
It's
p.m.
been a while
start
since I've
then,
been on the
okay.
budget meeting. Okay,
I mean, we can start at the usual 6 time, just depends on how much
Yeah,
business
well,
afterwards
Right.
you wanna get done.
okay.
How quick I talk.
So if we can get you another name soon, otherwise we vote with the 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
do we have anybody that we particularly want represented? Like, I know Nancy was a parent,
Tim's a parent.
Tim's a parent, yep, Kathy.
Kathy's a grandparent.
Kathy's a grandparent,
Sharon was Sharon was the like least connected to the school. I don't know how to
Yeah.
say that correctly,
Yeah.
but not
Will's a
without a
parent,
kid. Will's a
yeah.
parent.
Will's a parent, yeah.
If there's a community member who is connected to like business sector, what would Mary Ellen be?
I was gonna say, what about Mary Ellen?
Mary Ellen, maybe.
I bet she,
Worth asking.
I don't know if she's
Yeah.
around, but I bet she,
I think so, she wasn't planning on, I mean, unless she's on
Well, she
vacation.
might be on like, she might be on a trip.
yeah, true.
But we should.
But if she's available, I think she'd be good, right?
Yeah, we should ask.
Yeah.
She could come run it for us.
Okay.
No, just kidding.
I think she wants to be done. But yeah, I think we should ask her.
Okay.
What about a business owner?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's nice to have somebody with like that kind of perspective.
John at the alphabet.
John, maybe. Who else do we have? The blogging company, Arnhorst. I don't know. I was just racking my brain, thinking out loud. Okay, let's ask Mary Ellen first, maybe, and then maybe see about John, or I don't know who I would contact.
I can ask Mary Ellen.
Okay.
Okay.
There's Vanessa's husband. He owns a tree service.
Wes?
Wes, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe West. That's another business, and they're pretty community engaged, so that could be a good option too. Vanessa or.
I know, I'm like, right, Vanessa does so much already.
Yeah, I don't want to ask Vanessa just because of her capacity, but maybe her partner would. Okay, I was just thinking of business owners that just didn't seem to be as represented here.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, OSBA training, did you land on that day?
I'm waiting to hear back from Abby. So,
Oh, okay.
I sent a text earlier today. We'll see.
Okay.
But
About the 10th.
for the 10th at 9 to
9 to
noon
noon.
instead of 9:30. And I asked
Fridays are good. So.
say it again.
I said Fridays are good, so I'm
Yeah.
updating the time.
So right now, fingers crossed, May 10th, 9 to noon.
9 to
I'm just waiting for
Okay.
one more yes.
And, listening sessions are set.
They
So
are.
probably our discussion on that, right? Let's see what that all brings next Wednesday. And have you gotten much feedback on attendance yet, or?
Yesterday, actually, I think I looked this morning. Give me 1 second. There was one RSVP this morning.
I haven't, did that just go out Parent Square?
Parent Square
Yeah.
yesterday, and then I put it as a flyer and like it was 2 different posts.
Yeah, it was posted.
And on Facebook?
I am having trouble with Facebook. I can't was having trouble accessing Facebook on my computer. I can get there on my phone, but I can't get the flyer off of my phone to put it into Facebook. So I will navigate that tonight.
Did it get
I gave up.
posted to any other Facebooks yet? Or do they always take it off?
That's what I would.
Facebook?
A lot of
I don't
times
remember if I
somebody
saw
will
it.
put it on the parent
Off
one.
of Parent Square, like, do you need
That's
to
what I was thinking.
take it off Parent?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen. I was hoping
I
that
can't remember if
was
I've
the
seen
next
it.
step, and I hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
I haven't looked today though. I haven't
Okay.
had time.
I feel like I saw it on there, but also I've seen it in multiple other capacities.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And I did send it to. I still have one RSVP.
And what's the?
I sent it to press release to
Yeah.
the radio stations and
The
Save
paper,
Select.
yeah.
Yep.
And what's the capacity of that room?
And that was, the capacity of that room is, we don't actually have a set capacity
Okay.
rated for. We've had 40 people in there before.
Okay. I just figured like if like the evening one gets large or something.
I know,
right?
no, I know, totally.
Yeah,
Well,
the
and it
evening
will
could
take
move. It was daytime. I have to be, and
Yeah.
I don't know if I went and asked you guys.
No,
but
you
We're
didn't.
gonna use that. Sorry.
When I got the notice, I was like, did I say that we could do
No,
it?
I don't know.
And so I called Tim and I was like, Tim, did
No.
you? No.
That
I
just
was
dawned
like,
on me. I was like, somebody else asked me, and I'm like, where would it be? And I was like, well, if it's at 10 o'clock, it can't be in any
Yeah,
of
in
our
the school,
classrooms.
yeah.
So I went over there, and I think I had it on my list to ask, and just assumed I did.
I know.
And I
Well, okay,
just
Tim-
realized I did not.
Tim and I
Is it
checked
available?
and it's available.
Okay.
And yeah, so we got it.
So if we had to,
Sorry, that's my
if we had to move for the evening, where could we go?
I mean, Tucker's room was the biggest one. Like,
Yeah.
That's why we went down there last time.
Okay.
And it's.
Is that bigger than that room?
It's
I mean, I feel like
similar
they're
I
with,
thought they were
it's
close.
similar, but it's probably slightly bigger, but similar.
Okay.
It just, we will need to do some setup down there, like, cause we have it set up like this, but
Yeah.
without, like.
Well, I'm not going out to work that morning, so I can come early. Like,
Yeah.
that's fine.
We'll go
Mhm.
set up once. And then, yeah, if we need to, it was
Gym.
easier to have it
Yeah,
the
gym.
same. I mean, the gym is our next choice after,
Yeah.
or multi-purpose. I don't know which one has better acoustics, but one of those two
Well,
is
it's
the.
kind of good to have the bleachers.
Yeah, the gym might be easier, just because of that.
Mhm.
And easier setup, because you just
Yep.
pull the bleachers out.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Okay.
Multi-purpose room's actually terrible
Yeah.
because it has a very noisy fan.
Oh,
And
that's
that fan
right.
comes on and you cannot.
Yeah, that's
hear
right.
that
Yeah.
That's
thing.
right.
And that would require a lot of setup, actually.
And it would,
Yeah.
lots of setup,
Okay.
yeah. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other public comment? Sharon? Nothing? Okay. All right. Anything from the group?
No, I just wanted to, it'd be good to get those listening sessions out on the socials.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
I'll get
that
that.
is the socials. Yeah, just, it's less because I feel like a lot of people will attend, I hope a lot of people attend, but it's more because I don't want there to be any sort of like, oh, they said they did
Know
listening
about it,
sessions
but
and
they
nobody,
didn't,
they
right.
didn't tell anybody.
Right.
Cause we
Yeah.
already struggle with being like, they don't communicate, and it's like, no, we did, I just wanna make sure we did.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we'll get some of that anyway, because not everybody sees it on Facebook, and
Yeah.
not everybody sees it on Periscope, and that's gonna be the case, but we are doing, and, the press release to the radio, there's,
Yeah.
we're taking all the.
Yeah.
Covering all the paths, I agree, we wanna make sure we do it, and do it as soon as possible, so,
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool, thank you, I just.
All right.
I was checking the parent site, but I went to Crow Parents. It's not there. Get the right one here.
I know.
My gosh, you guys,
End up in the
I'm
wrong-
so tired.
Wrong school. Okay, well,
Okay.
we can move to
I will
adjourn.
move,
No, it's not there.
that we adjourn.
I will second.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Yay.